Welcome into Defuse the podcast, where we talk about gaming issues, streamer issues, and just things related to enjoying gaming and streaming in general. This week, the topic is going to be the summer of gaming showcases and how they relate to the loss of E3. Do we like where showcases sit? Do we think there's small improvements that could happen in the showcase space? And are we excited about the direction the gaming community and development community may be headed in the future? Joining me this week again is just Spike as our guest, and as always, Cortenyde.
Hey, nice. I don't know what that was.
Hey, you know what? It was in the moment. That's all.
It was in the, I made a choice.
I gotta tell you guys, I have had a wild week since
Yeah?
the last podcast.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, your schedule's been changing a lot, right? So
yeah, no, it's been wild. I streamed straight through actually. I didn't realize that we were not obligated to be streaming from the last podcast to this podcast. So I've just been live for like 7 days.
madness.
I heard you actually haven't slept. Like it's been a non-sleep.
No, I just kept popping Adderall and just like I've just been here for it, man. Yeah.
Oh, is that
yeah,
what they
a
mean
lot
about
of
Twitch
ads
ads
ran.
now? Ad is Adderall. Is that like
Adderall? Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm glad
getting
you
down with the lingo
found
now.
time to
So
change
I might not
at least.
make much sense. Yeah, no, I changed a couple times, but I might not make much sense because I've just been here since the last podcast. It's pretty crazy.
Right.
You look pretty fresh, I have to say. You know, I mean, like if that was me after 7 days, I'd look like the swamp creature. But you're looking great.
Yeah. I let my hair down. I can't keep it up that long. It just keeping it tight like that tends to give me a headache, so I had to put it down at some point. But the reason we're here is me and Court have had this podcast before. Spike was not part of it, but we talked about the loss of E3, and Court almost did some gotchas on me, and he did some change my mind stuff about like this is probably the way forward for the showcase space. I watched 7 showcases, which isn't as easy as watching one E3, but I watched those 7 showcases and they had plus and minuses throughout the industry, and me and Court did 3 watch parties. 3 or 4
I feel like
watch
4.
parties.
I think it was 4, but one was split up by about 2 weeks. I could be wrong because I feel like we did 3 in one weekend.
Right, because Sony was a lot earlier than the rest of them, and then
I think
we
so.
had 3 that last weekend. So, we took in a lot of content, talked a lot about content live, and what I want to start with, it's linked to the gaming industry as a whole. The launch of Diablo 4 and where projects like Starfield look like they're at. It's hard to predict this because Starfield could prove me wrong and they could prove a lot of people wrong. Their direct was amazing. Do we think that developers are focusing more on pre-launch development and testing so that they are getting away from a lot of bad press that games like Redfall has had?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope so. You know, I am the OG, you know, early access supporter. Like I've been playing DayZ since day one, and I think they were the first game to have like an early access state that existed on Steam. And it's, you know, gone rampant since then. And, you know, it's a different topic, you know, early access gaming for sure. It's a different beast. A lot of people, I don't think, appreciate it for what it's supposed to be, but also I think some game devs now take advantage of it. But that said, with like AAA games and some of the games that it seemingly had all of the funding in the world and had all the potential in the world to be a great thing, you know, upon release, oh, I'm so sorry, like we actually need to fix a bunch of things because we didn't properly test it or actually take the time to do this. And you know, it feels almost like there's just like corporate marketing, you know, board members that are like, well, you had this amount of time to get it out, so release it. Don't care what state it's in. We need to make money off of this. Like, and it just feels like for a minute, the gaming industry's felt a little bit like a money grab on the AAA side of things, and not, you know, especially with things like COD that release and re-release and re-release and re-release and re-release every freaking year. And it's like, can you just give me like a solid game engine and like maybe just update that for a few years and then get a new solid game? Like maybe give us a reason to update, not, you know, microtransaction us to hell on top of also charging us $60 every year. Like, I don't know. Yeah, gaming right now is definitely in a weird spot, and it feels like, at least with the, I will say that I haven't watched a ton of the showcases this year, so this is gonna be, you know, be in a little more your guys' wheelhouse. But like what I have watched of what's going on, it feels like gaming companies are at least starting to, you know, turn around and realize that they need to take the time. Like Starfield looks like it could be really, really great, and some of these games, like some of those trailers, and at least the Xbox showcase, which I did watch quite a bit of, look great, and I hope they are. I hope, you know, it's not just the magic of editing and, you know, not actual gameplay.
Right. And Diablo definitely, I point to Diablo 1 because like I've been playing it a lot, and I'm kind of like leaning towards this could be my main game for a good stretch. But like their launch was pretty clean. There weren't a lot of hiccups. It's MMO. It's live service, so like it's online. They kind of put the game industry in a spot where like it's almost like, hey, look, this is possible if you guys actually stop and think for a second. It takes away a lot of cover that some companies have, because you're right. It almost feels like companies have used us as like beta testers over the last couple of years, and like they launch knowing they can patch day 1, week 1, week 2, and fix things on the fly as we say, like, why is this busted? Why is this busted? Why is this busted? And like, that's not our job as the consumer to be your play tester. You have to hire play testers.
I don't want playthrough 2 to be the smooth one. That was a great experience, you know? Like, cause you're right. Diablo, for me so far, I have not, I'm, you know, maybe a quarter of the way into the game. I've only played for maybe 20 hours, if that. And I feel like I give a shit about the story. I feel like the cutscenes are great. I feel like the transitions in and out of gameplay into cutscenes, or even like the minor, you know, cutscene transitions that aren't like, they're like pseudo cutscenes, and like I care about the story, which I normally don't in most games personally. It's just how I operate in a lot of those games. I'm usually just kind of along for the ride, and they've like somehow found a way to get me invested in it already, and like I'm like excited about the mechanics. I love the skill tree and the fact that they brought that back from, you know, old school Diablo 2 days. Like, it feels really good, and I hope that is you know, telling to our, you know, outlook on games this year and years to come, because it hasn't felt like that recently.
Or do you think the bar is moving in the right direction for gamers?
Yes and no. I as always will always
Finally
play
a contrarian.
devil's advocate. Did you hear that, devil's advocate?
Yes, I picked it up.
Thank you. I just had to have that acknowledged. All right, thank you.
It's awkward now that you pointed it out.
Is it on
but
the minutes? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah,
Nope.
we didn't note that one down. We're gonna let that one ride.
Again, I like you know, last week you were saying about with your company, you now see a lot of the criticisms that you would have, Spike, in a new light. I am the same now with the games industry, now that I've only been working at my company for 3 months, but I see it I see this whole industry in a brand new light. You know, my girlfriend's been working in the games industry a little bit longer than me. We do very similar roles, so you know, I've been more embedded on that, the kind of the behind the scenes sort of stuff for quite a while. And it's interesting to see. So I think I am more of a fence sitter now than I ever have been, but I definitely have convictions on things. I think that it's not enough. It's not enough for a game to release with no problems, and that's the meritus point about it. I think that's incredible. You wouldn't. I like the car analogy, whereas when you buy an older car, a second-hand car, you may expect a few issues with it, right? You may expect to take it to the garage, but when you buy a brand new car, you know that there's a likelihood that it could be something wrong with it in production. But generally, you want a solid drive, right? You want it to be safe. You know, you want the upgraded packages that are with the new model. You know, you want the experience with it. the core thing that it should do is drive. And I feel like some games now don't do that. They're either broken within, if they're live service, they're broken within their stores, or they're broken within their the way that they update, or the way that they collate players together. Single player and multiplayer, I think there is an issue right now with just telling a story. I saw a really interesting video because I've just recently played through Guardians of the Galaxy. I had an issue with Steam. I had to reinstall Steam and it wasn't streaming properly, and I didn't get to play it. I just kind of put it to bed. Replayed Guardians of the Galaxy, had a great time. I'm now in this space of like playing some games that are in my catalog. Cyberpunk was another one of those games that fucked up for me. And I'm like, it's fine. And I couldn't vocalize what I didn't feel about it, but I was like, this world feels empty. And I saw a whole video on Cyberpunk. I watched a whole video about it, which essentially says, you know, it's a big, vast world. They've got lots of things going on, but they've got nothing going on because nothing really ties into it. So the lore doesn't feed into the gameplay. The missions and the storyline don't really branch out any further than being very facile and just kind of very surface level. And it doesn't, even the story itself doesn't really tie in with itself. And I think that this is a case for a lot of games. I think games now, for them to just release with no issues and that be the meritorious point about it, a good story and no issues, that's not enough. That's not enough.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Like, you look back into 2006 to 2013, right? That period of time there is an incredibly innovative time for games. Okay, we had like, you know, Star Wars Dance Party, you know, Han Solo. We had that kind of side of it, but we also had some of the most beloved games that have released, like CSGO, World of Warcraft, Skyrim, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, both of them. Dishonored. There was a whole absolute list, a huge list of games. The games industry was really kind of just throwing everything they had at it. Now what you're seeing a lot of the time, we saw a lot with the showcases, is a lot of similar games, similar mechanics, regurgitations. And the question that is on everyone's mind is this even going to be in a good state to release? Is the story going to be any good? And you know me, Skag, like, the one thing that I want is the story to be good. And if they do have to patch anything later, fine. But it's that thing where that going back to the car thing, you wouldn't expect to go to that brand new car and the mechanics be like, oh yeah, so it's got all the features you asked for, except for maybe this, and that might be shipped about 6 months, and that might come in about 2 years. We're not really sure. It might not come at all. Like buying a brand new like Lexus off of Wish.com, where it's kind of like you're buying each part, and that's kind of how the games industry feels right now. On the flip side of that, I do think, I'm watching these showcases, I think there's a surge with the AAA space doing that. There is a surge of indie games which are really pushing a lot of innovations, story-wise, mechanically, artistically, and I think that is really where we're going to see the biggest change. And I think we're going to have that next 2006 to 2013 period in about a year or two. And I think it's starting to push through already. And I think you're seeing that from, like, look at Twitch. Like, half of them are playing only up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a really good A/B to that point of like indie developers versus AAA developers, and like, you know, heart and soul into a game versus like money, blood, sweat, and tears into a game is BattleBit versus Battlefield this year. Like, are you kidding me? I know BattleBit's been in development since I think 2016. It's not like it came out of nowhere. I mean, they've been working on it for a long time, but they did a nice, you know, iterative testing period over the last year and a half where you could do play tests every weekend, and they would spend the whole week working on it. You play test every weekend, and they really honed the game in, and it's amazing. It's better than any Battlefield game I've ever played, and it looks it's Roblox. Like they didn't take the time to do all the shiny graphics, everything. They made a good ass game. They focused on gameplay. They made it, something that people wanted to play. And instead Battlefield was like, all right, so how can we like get the highest quality renders? And you always saw their showcase and like, oh yeah, so we did these 3D scans of these, body armor suits and helmets from, modern militaries and whatnot. And it's like, cool guys, but your game sucks. Like you can make a game look amazing, but if it runs like shit, fuck that. I don't like.
Diablo is an isometric gameplay, and that doesn't have like amazing graphics. I wouldn't say it's on par with what Battlefield's trying.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole, like, we've talked about that before, the graphics over functionality. Like, gamers want the story, the functionality, a smooth running game. And like Battlefields and COD, they're the easy ones to pick at because they're the top of their category. But obviously the gaming space feels like there's a lot of weakness there with Ubisoft coming out with the first person shooter now. Dr. Disrespect is trying to start a gaming company to come after him because he feels there's a shortage in that space. And then BattleBit, like, people are going after those, like, arguably some of the biggest games in the gaming space because they feel that they're not listening and they're not developing and they're not delivering what needs to be delivered. Graphics should never be the driving goal of your next expansion. It should be functionality.
And I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast about how technology drives that as well. We've seen cards like the 4070, the 40 series getting a lot of slack this time around, whereas the 30 series was very aspirational. People wanted it. Now we were in a different time. We were even in lockdown, and maybe it was that unattainability that really drove that. But I think that with like the 40 series, for example, it's the prices of cards have gone out of most people's average budgets, especially in this time, right? And I think that the technology has to keep up. For example, PlayStation 4, it was known for its particle system. That's what they really drove on the PS4, right? That's what they were trying to show off, and that was their flagship game called Knack. They showed that off, and they showed off Rainbow Six for the particle system. Always a block system, very similar kind of technology that they were trying to show off, right? I think with this one, with this engine, it's all about realism. So an unofficial version of that would be Unrecord.
Unrecord.
It looks, honestly, I don't want to play that game. It looks too realistic. I'll probably have to, it probably flare my PTSD like crazy, dude. But that's crazy cool. But I think that if, like you're saying, with, graphically, if people are playing games like, what's it called? BattleBit, that really speaks more for gameplay than anything, because not everyone's going to have these components. And so the market's going to slow down the production of those types of things like the cards, because people can't keep up with how much the technology changes, and the games industry can only keep up so far. So whereas you had these games, these exclusives, which will show off what the console like the PS5 or the Xbox Series X can do on release, you're seeing less of that, and they're just trying to play catch up because the technology is moving faster than they can really produce it. And I think there will be a sea change where, because consumers don't want to reach into their pocket anymore for a little bit more FPS or maybe a little bit more graphic fidelity, the games are already having an effect on it, where the games are built to a certain degree that most hardware can't handle it. And so gamers go back to what is the core of it, which is that story, those kind of fun mechanics. They just want to have fun. They want to be immersed in the game rather than have a daily showcase every time they turn on their console or their PC. And that's where I think that's where it is that it is that fight between, technology and kind of how much the studios can keep up and how much they have to change engines, and how powerful it is, but also making that baseline for all users.
It's like not the proper thing to fight over, in the games industry. Like I feel like for a while it's been who can make this game look as nice as possible. And granted, Unreal Engine 5 is making that easier than ever for sure. I think in the next, 10 years, we are going to see graphical fidelity skyrocket because, I mean, if you're going to release Unreal Engine 5, there's some, games that can just convert to that. They were already on 4. They can but to build a game from scratch from that, like, we're not really going to see the true benefits of that technology, nanite and all that stuff, like, really hit for quite a few more years, I think.
Yeah.
But the focus probably, it seems like it with this discussion as well, making me think about it, that the focus has been on who has the better graphics, who has the most frames per second, here's Xbox, here's PlayStation, here's Xbox, here's PlayStation, and obviously PCs over here just like, we have the best if you can afford it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that, which I've been excited about for a long time, and we're really starting to see the reality of it, is that PlayStation 5, Xbox, whatever they call it these days, whatever the version is.
Series X.
Series X, yeah, thank you. I'm not a console guy, if you can't tell. And then PC, they're starting to become synonymous with each other hardware-wise. Like, it's like PlayStation 5s and Xboxes are essentially computers at the end of the day these days. It's not really as proprietary as it used to be. You're seeing just like literal Samsung, M.2 solid state drives inside of PlayStations and stuff like that. Like, they're so it's interesting that as it gets closer and closer together, it's got to be it's why you're seeing more and more games be able to release on multiple platforms. And I think it probably hopefully streamlines that process for developers to port things to different platforms, because they're not running totally entirely different like hardware protocols and stuff like that, where you have to rework everything, or like, this game is, like things like Dark Souls and Elder Scrolls, I know they like have to run at 60 frames per second, or it might be 30. I know it's like one or the other, where it's like if you run it in a different frame per second, literally like the whole engine moves differently. It's a different speed at which
they have
operates.
The 2 settings, like performance or like graphics, and you can choose, and it kind of locks you in.
Exactly. If that FPS drifts, the gameplay actually drifts, and whatnot, which is interesting. So it's like, it's those kinds of mechanics where it's like, now that they're becoming more, alike with like PC, where PC was always like the powerhouse of like, you're going to run Crysis and stuff like that, and we're going to really push fidelity and graphics. Now it's like, you can kind of just let that ride, and it's like, you don't have to like be like, well, this is PC exclusive, because you can't possibly do that on Xbox or PlayStation. But that being said, hopefully, these companies are starting to see that, gameplay over graphics, for sure. Graphics can be awesome and all, and like if you can sell me a beautiful game with an amazing story and immersive gameplay, then I'm all for it. But there's few and far between. There's only a few flagships that are really doing that, and even at that, it's like God of War over and over again, or or this or whatever. These games, like, I remember it kind of blew my mind watching the showcase for Starfield, and what's his name, the guy who's always talking for Bethesda. Forget his name.
I can't remember his name either.
Either way,
Mike.
I guess it's like a Paul, some with a P, I think. But he said it was their first new IP in like 36 years or something. And I was like, how old is Bethesda? How old is there's our first new like universe, I guess, like they've been doing things in the Elder Scrolls universe forever, and Fallout and stuff forever. And it's like, so wait, you guys have been like beating that same storyline, that same universe for that long? And it's like, I mean, I guess I appreciate it. I understand, like, Warcraft has been an ever evolving story forever and whatnot. And WoW is still running, and people have their opinions about that, but that like shows to me that it's like, it took you that long to like step outside those bounds. And I feel like everybody's just like, well, this is safe, so we're just gonna make X game number 37 because it worked the first 36 times. It's like, where's the innovation there?
Final Fantasy 16. But like that, all those points kind of lead into in my mind, we talk about, we want the story, we want the gameplay, and for me, the question that I went into the showcase almost leaving with the question, but also going into it with, was, are trailers doing their job? Because we get a lot of cutscenes and vertical slices, which you may give me a hint at the story, but I have no idea about gameplay. And like, gameplay is what's important. You can show me that the cutscene is gorgeous and that there's going to be a bit of story in a cutscene, but are you showing me what as a gamer is most important to me? Because like, yeah, getting from cutscene to cutscene is awesome in a game, but if getting from cutscene to cutscene isn't fun, then the mechanics are wrong. Like it falls short. So in your guys' mind, are trailers alone doing their job to hook you to look into upcoming games?
Yes, it will hook me it'll interest me, but like if I'm on Steam, if I see a trailer, I'll be like, okay, this is interesting, but I'll immediately look for the gameplay. I would much rather have gameplay, even if it's early development. If it's not, I don't want to hear about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I want to know what kind of game it is. A lot of the time, there's no information in these showcases. There's not even. There was one. What was that interesting one? The disgusting looking burger.
Oh God, it was on Sony's.
It was like a.
It was like
Guardians of the
80s
Galaxy
space theme.
Yeah.
No idea what the game's about.
It could have been anything, but I was like, oh, this looks interesting, but it gave no context about the story, the game, mechanics, what type of like gameplay it is. It could have been it could have been an RTS. It could have been a storytelling Walking Dead quick time,
It
kind of game.
could be a Starfield competitor. Like, no clue.
We don't know, and that's the biggest thing. I'm like, that's cool. It'll make me look into it, but there's no publications which even say it either because they don't know. So what is the point in keeping it front of mind? Because I'll be honest, I'll remember it sort of when it comes out, but I'll be like, oh, is that game with the disgusting looking burger? I don't see a benefit for them to release anything other than to say, hey, it's like every morning I have to have a meeting to say what I'm doing for the day, and it's an accountability thing, but it also, we can communicate as a team if we need any help on any projects. But it's just like me going into that meeting being like, I'm doing some work on video stuff. Like, it's so vague. I don't really. It doesn't give any more detail than just saying that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in my eyes, I'd rather not even see it if it doesn't have gameplay. Me, it's the one that irks me the most. And I don't care for fully rendered cinematics where it's just like I think Hellblade. I don't know, maybe it's my attention span. I get bored. It doesn't pull me in because I'm like, where is this leading? Because I'm not invested in this character yet, so I don't know why I'm watching a full-on cinematic. For the fanboys, maybe, but for me, as a new potential player, less so.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Like that one in particular, like if you didn't play Hellblade, on the first go through, and then they lead you with a trailer that's like very much a sequel trailer, and you know nothing about it, it's like, okay, well, I'm new to this, IP. Like, what is this even about? Like, am I supposed to care at all? Yeah, what's the story here? It's interesting. It's a interesting thought on that. I definitely agree though. Like I guess I'm a little easier sold at times, so I agree and disagree a little bit. I disagree in the fact that I just like new content. I just get excited with like cool trailers and dope cinematics. I enjoy that. I'm the kind of guy that's like, I liked all the Star Wars movies. I don't care. Like I like new content. I have fun with that. I don't read into it too much. But I will say I'm very skeptical of any game that's like, here's all cinematic 100% of the way through. Like if it's like starts with cinematic and then it builds up and then boom, throws you into some like action gameplay and then pulls out into an ending cinematic where it's like, okay, that was like a dope start. You sold me on like the story. And there's like some meat, like here's this big bad character or the hero or whatever in the opening scene, and then runs you into some sweet gameplay, gives me the flavor, the taste of the game, and then you can kind of wrap it up with a release date or a teaser or whatever. I think that's the way to go. But yeah, trailers for games, I'm all about just absorbing it, seeing what happens. Hopefully they give me some gameplay. Comparing it with trailers for movies, like half the time I don't even want to watch them because I feel like it just spoils everything. Not to get off topic there, but I'm just like, I'll go see that movie.
So like Spider-Man me and Court watched the Spider-Man 2 live, and they had a cinematic, and went into a lot of gameplay, but I got like, I don't know what they were trying to show off. It was almost too long. It was an extremely long one, but like, I don't know if they were trying to show me new mechanics or because I didn't play the first one. So like, I didn't have that like what new mechanic or what's returning or like this gameplay, what should I be taking away from it in the Spider-Man trailer, which is, I mean, it's Sony's, it was Sony's flagship for the year, and it was a huge trailer, but like, I wasn't sold on Spider-Man because I feel like they showed me gameplay, which I typically like, but I didn't care about the character or why. It didn't give me the segment or story for what I was seeing. They gave me a segment about a boss or evil character, and then they jumped to an unrelated part of the game that ended up being a really long chase scene, and I didn't understand what mechanic was like. And from that leads me to this whole like Ubisoft. I don't know if you guys watched Ubisoft's at all, but like they did it way more like Starfield Direct, but they did it for all of their trailers where it was a trailer, person comes on stage and says, these are the mechanics we introduced to you, almost like an old school E3 panel. And this is, we see our character developing here, and we added this mechanic, and look at how he interacts with this. And there's someone talking me through why I should be excited about mechanics in games. And that delivery, Starfield did it and Ubisoft did it, is what I would love to see versus just Sony's trailer. Hey, here's our new product, guys. Trailer. Because
Yeah.
I didn't get enough. Like, trailers are cool, but give me something from the dev team that expands on the trailer. You got me hooked. Now give me something extra that I should be excited about. And
I think that's a better way to go. Like, I really enjoyed the Starfield. I didn't get the chance to see the Ubisoft one. I watched it, just see kind of, to see it. Not that Ubisoft, like, they burnt me so many times, so many different items that I'm mistrustful of them. Some of them I've really enjoyed. Others, like for example, jumping on the bandwagon of Ubisoft Quartz. I'm like, well, that went a whole lot of nowhere. You know what I mean? But I enjoyed that a lot more than having those trailers, and also having the presentation where they're trying to relate. Like the spider dude and the woman, I don't know, the co-host, I think it was for PlayStation, I think, but it felt very forced. The Xbox one with the chairwoman, I think that was who it was, and she was just staring into it. She's very professional, but she was just staring. I can't even do it. I got the fan in my eyes, but it was just, there was no middle ground of relatability. You either had hyper corporate, or you had hey kids, hey fellow kids, you know what I mean? And kind of like the overacting. What I want to see is a standard dev dude who's just hyped about the game, who's got bullet points and is just going to take you through the cool new parts of the game that he's hyped about. You know, somebody who knows the game. They're not over presenting it. They're not trying to give you this corporate spiel, but you find out a good amount about the game, even if it's, just something more than just a cutscene. Because I'll be honest, I skip cutscenes most of the time. I'm playing Cyberpunk, and I'll just go through. I don't care for the dialogue. This one thing that turned me off, I was like, nope. There's nothing going on in this conversation. So I just get right through.
That's fair. I feel like that's what I embrace about games like that. I love cutscenes, but I don't know. I half the time what's that?
I think Skag talked, but he was muted.
Oh, I did. I said no, it was a good joke. I'm going back. I said Court. I love gameplay or story. Give me story. Also Court. Skip cutscene.
There's a way of doing it, like BioShock, or there's emergent storytelling where you find out. I don't mind a small cutscene here and there, but like something like Death Stranding, no way, I couldn't do that. And if you're in an open world or in an environment where you are exploring, I think it's a good way to not hold the player's hand, and you can find out the story through like clues and notes without the need for the cutscenes. Some of my favorite games have cutscenes, but they don't kick the ass out of them. They tell you what you need and they move along. I think pacing's incredibly important.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk, it's just a conversation simulator that's
Did you-
nowhere.
Did you play Detroit Become Human or similar style games, Court?
I have not played that, but I've played similar style games. Less interested in them. Less interested in them.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think at least just for me, I mean, it's like I'm not like shooting you down at all. I mean, everybody's got their own. That's why there's a million types of games out there. But
Right.
I actually really love that kind of gameplay style because I'm a bit of a lazy gamer, I would say. Sometimes with single player games, I'm actually like I embrace cutscenes and stuff because it's like, oh, okay, cool. I get to just like kind of hang here for a minute and just like enjoy what's being presented to me. And yeah, I mean, for sure, there's some games where it's like it's just empty cutscenes. It's like, okay, dude, like you don't need to pull me out of gameplay every 5 seconds. But those games like Detroit Become Human and whatnot are like kind of built to be a bit of a like an interactive story. And actually, like that was the first of its kind that I had played, and I loved it. I had a great time, even though everybody died at the end. And I made chat very sad.
Spoiler.
Oh,
I was
damn.
kidding. I was kidding.
Yeah, no, and like I just played something like Polar also. The whole game was a cutscene. I did the Star Trek Resurgence, and like the whole thing is just how you pick conversation points with other actors. There's like almost next to no gameplay. Like you move from area to area a little bit, but like the whole thing is a choose your own adventure episode of Star Trek, and I absolutely loved it. I was like full into the story. So like there's a place for all those games.
Yeah, but what if you could moonwalk?
I got a spacewalk in, Court. I got to spacewalk. They just
Oh, you
teased
did?
me with it first. Yes.
Okay, I didn't.
Look.
I think I had to jump off at that point. So I didn't. I just saw you getting edged with the spacewalk. That's all I saw.
And so that game was the king of, they show you what's about to happen. You're like, oh man, this is getting super serious. And they're like, cut to your other character. Because you were playing as 2 characters on 2 storylines. And like, as soon as you were about to like peak on one character, they're like, jump to the other one. And you're like, no, what? It was epic storytelling though. But in the spaces, like I looked at, to talk on the like gimmicky part of like, hey fellow kids and stuff like that, there was one we didn't watch party. It was part of Summer of Gaming. They had the cheesiest thing in the world. It was being guest host by a AI, and I use quotations for AI because it was an actor that was just being projected on like a fake hologram screen type situation. And they were joking about AI taking everyone's jobs and like creative and everything. And it was just like the biggest gimmicky, like, I hate this. And like with the Spider-Man and that lady during the other one, like their connection, their like bond or like the way they work together was so
There was
bad.
no chemistry.
The chemistry,
I
yeah,
would
just
rather they hated
destroyed
each
it.
other.
Yeah.
Because then there would at least be genuine emotion.
Oh, I
Yeah,
mean,
that
I think-
just sounds rough. Like I'd be crawling out of my skin watching that.
yeah. And another one that did really good was I don't remember. Oh, it was the Video Game Awards.
Yeah.
Dev Days. So the Video Game Awards hosted a summer showcase, and it was all the big hitters, all the typical, like what you would expect as far as trailers go during the Video Game Awards. But then after that, they called it Dev Days that ran for like 2 hours, and it was small indie developers. And it was basically like a pre-recorded, but they went to their studio or interview place and they sat down with a dev for 15 to 20 minutes. I really think that like that needs or should be on every level, be it PlayStation, Xbox, or indie dev. That is where I would like to see showcases be. Because if you're going to spread them out against multiple showcases, that's fine. I will find the information. In this space now, and I enjoy finding it now, but I want more interaction with the devs. I need to feel why the devs think I need this game, right?
Yeah, that stood out to me with the Starfield Direct, actually. Not to keep rounding back to that, it's one of the few that I really watched like all the way through personally, but I thought it was cool that, like, I know they're known, you know, Bethesda's known for kind of putting together this very like cookie cutter, like really well scripted showcase for other games, but I think they did really well. It definitely made it feel like I was able to at least connect with a handful of people on the team. Like they kind of had their like, this is what I really like about it. I hope that wasn't like totally fucking scripted. You know, like at top to bottom, hopefully it was like, what do you want to say about this? You know, or like they pick out the right people. But it still felt cool to like feel like there was some, you know, interaction with the devs and showed the passion from within the team rather than just being like, yeah, here's a Sony logo and a game and you're going to like this. You should buy it.
I will say, and this is going to be this is going to be hard for me to kind of say that I was wrong, Skag.
Oh
God, that hurt a little bit.
Hey, it's real.
Okay, so here's where I'm at with it. Okay, I posited before, hey, we've got the video game awards and we've got all the directs if you want to watch them, right? I enjoyed my time watching it with you. That's not the case, okay? I really did. I did enjoy, you know. So what I'm about to say is no reflection on that. But it was a slog to get through all of those showcases and feel like I was shortchanged. I agree with you that something like E3 existing, even if it was an online, direct, it would really allow a little bit more vetting. It would allow the games that are more within development, or you know, have more of a place to be shown, will have more time to be picked apart, and we could have a showcase like we did with Star. And it said Strike Force with Starfield. I think that what I said before, and for anyone who wasn't listening, who didn't listen to the previous podcast, I essentially said that I don't think that E3 will come back, and I don't think it really has a place in modern gaming because of the fact that we do have, you know, these live settings like other expos that do exist, like PAX and EGX, that the gamers can go to and experience that, and then we have the online directs, and you know, people can pick and choose. And I still stand by that. Don't get me wrong, but going to see which, you know, each direct is what, an hour, 2 hours out of every day. And there's a likelihood you'll miss one. You know, if I could see, hey, what are the newest games that are the most direct, the closest or recent games that are coming out, and you know, what do they look like? How do they play? So I can get excited about those rather than production in 2 years that only has a very short, you know, like 30-second not even a trailer. You know, some of them were just holding. And if it can space out and I can have a little bit more of a breakdown about what the game is like, that would be cool. And I think that is the space that we're not getting with E3 not necessarily being there. And so that part I was wrong, and I do agree with you on that.
Yes, excellent. No, the consolidated, like one consolidated. I agree with you, like on constraints. Give me one consolidated. Projects must be, call it 7 months from launch, right? And it's the big titles, and they get 15 minutes, right? That would be huge. Call it the like like coming soon showcase, and one person runs it, like IGN or something, because like, and you say it was a slog. We watch half of what we did. I watched 6 or 7, and I didn't even watch OTK's. I didn't watch OTK's specific one. I only caught half of the video game award one, and I didn't watch all of Summer of Gaming because Summer of Gaming had a showcase that ran for multiple hours every day for an entire week. Like the consolidated point, there's a lot to be said about it. And someone like Spike didn't get a chance to watch a lot of them, but I guess if and I don't want to speak for him, I'll hand it to him for a second, but like if there was one major coming soon one and then a bunch of smaller direct ones, I'm willing to bet he'd watch the one major coming soon and then worry about like the small ones if a specific project caught his eye.
Yeah, I mean that definitely. I mean it speaks for itself that I really didn't watch really any of them. I it's just not the thing that I set the time aside for. But I went back and watched a bunch of trailers because I knew they all happened. I knew this was a thing going on. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna just kind of pick out these few things that I feel like I'm interested in. Watch the trailers. Okay, those are dope. I'm gonna look back into that when it gets closer. It wasn't a huge deal to me to actually take the time out and watch them. I think if it, it's a lot to manage. Like I was kind of just curious and looked up the showcase schedule, and it's like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 just on this one, PC Gamer article, all within like a week and a half period of each other. And it's just like, nope, I'm not going to be there for all those. I don't have the time. I'm not that interested. If there was 1 or 2 days, Friday, Saturday, like you said, like get some of the devs in there, have a host, maybe talk to them about the game a little bit, get a little bit of real world like response from these developers and whatnot. And that would be something I would probably like maybe set aside some time for. But like I'm not going to set aside my time for 13 showcases. That are hour, 2 hours long. I'm just not that interested at the end of the day. I just kind of want to see a trailer and I'll weigh in, once I hear a little more about it, I guess. But
yeah.
But if it was, a 2 hour, let's say a 2 hour showcase one day,
yeah.
It had breakdowns, it had trailers, and it had like, the devs talking about it. They maybe had 10 minutes each, whatever. Yeah. That would probably be more preferential than watching like Nintendo Direct is today or was yesterday, I think. I had no interest.
I didn't even set time.
Yeah,
they're so restricted that like.
And the other thing, they like realistically, what incentive do any of these larger companies have to go out of their way to line somebody else's pockets with a successful showcase? At the end of the day, it's like if it all comes down to money, like COVID gave them the insight and the realization that like I could just do this myself. We could just keep all this money internal, pay our own people, our own production company. We have all this technology. We already do it. They probably already do a lot of internal video production with a lot of these corporations being so big, so large. Not every gaming studio is that big and can do such a massive direct, but like keep it in house. Like they were just essentially giving E3 the ability to make money off of them when they can just easily do it themselves. I
think E3 drew in a lot more of it drew in a larger demographic though.
Traffic.
Yeah. Okay. So like with Ubisoft, like I had the same point previously, and I think it's the people who aren't maybe within that key demographic of Ubisoft fans that will watch that showcase, they will hear about it eventually. But I think the benefit to something like a larger showcase, like E3 or a larger showcase where you're talking about lining pockets. I think it's more so less about lining the pockets and more about general exposure to a larger audience type. Because if you're going to do a direct, like I don't watch Nintendo Direct, we've got a Switch, but as an ecosystem, I don't really care that much about Nintendo. Now, if something came out that interested me on the Switch, I'd be more interested in it and I'd think about it. But because I'm not interested in Nintendo, I have no idea. I've not read up on it. I don't know what's going on. That's the benefit. Is less so about lining the pockets of others and more so pulling in a larger demographic. You
happen to have somebody like Court watch because you probably wouldn't have gone to their showcase.
Right.
Sorry, excuse me.
Like it widens the demographic.
Get that, yeah. There's something to be said about like just like, and I don't know if this is like a post-pandemic thing or if this was happening prior to the pandemic and it's just being realized even more now, but like I see PAX shrinking. I see a lot of different things shrinking. Like a lot of these live events, these large cons and whatnot and maybe not so much something so direct. Like like TwitchCon seemed to be successful last year. and whatnot. But like for me, for PAX, my wife and I went to PAX West. I think it was the year they changed it to West instead of Prime. It was like the first year they did that big old change. And so it was a while ago, but even that felt to me going like, we got 3-day passes, and I would never do that again for a PAX. I would get a 1-day pass, and it was like, by the time I walked the floor once, I was like, all right, that's kind of it. You know, it just, and I've heard from some friends that have been going to PAX regularly and have picked it up again since it started up again after COVID. And they're like, yeah, it feels like it's dying. Like the halls are a lot more empty. There's not as many developers there and stuff. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think
for events like that, and this is kind of what happened on the like change my mind thing, is those events need to find a way to have a digital footprint because of the existence of the direct showcases and stuff like that. So if one of them were able to establish a good solid digital footprint and take the place of E3 digitally, it would incentivize some of that like developer consolidated talk we were talking about. And like my example to kind of piggyback off Court was, I would not have watched the PlayStation showcase if I was not entering the space that I am entering on my YouTube side. I don't play PlayStation. I don't have a lot of incentive to watch their showcase, but I did it because of my content creation. If they had a major project or some of their minor projects that were in a consolidated, that would have been the only way to catch me if I wasn't doing what I was doing, right? And also a counterpoint to what's the incentive is, I mean, IGN still had a showcase that ran outside of major companies, and so did the video games. So these companies are still partaking partially in some of these events. They're just spread out, and they're not in the format that I think really optimizes that digital foot space.
Yeah, I agree. I think they definitely need to take advantage of the live streaming space if they're going to. If anybody's going to try to pick anything up like E3, you need to embrace the hybrid approach to it.
They all have like they all have online presence, but not in the same way that E3 did. I think E3 did it in an amazing way. And to your point, Spike, I agree. You know, we went to EGX this year, we went to WASD. There was a better turnout, and it was a fuller hall at the indie game showcase than there was at EGX. The biggest booths and the biggest lines for something was COD, which was releasing the next day or like that weekend. And what were the other ones? There was like a couple of drivings, and there was a TikTok booth, but it felt very empty. It just felt like an empty floor. And you know, I was only there for a day, but I feel like I got everything that I could out of it. I think more than anything, these kind of showcases, yeah, they're for the end user, but on a huge part of it, it's an expo. It's for a lot of the developers, publishers, a lot of like industry to meet and show off. And the fact that I think that's where if these shows do end up kind of slowing down, it'll become more industry centric. If it's just a lull for the moment for where we are, because look, you know, we had it with the pandemic where we were kind of all shut in, and we're slowly kind of coming out of our shell. It may be that, you know, people will lose the flavor for the online and like to be out and visiting. Like you know, like you say, TwitchCon huge right now because there's a call for it. Maybe it's that these shows consolidate. Maybe it's something like that. But I think it's going to be down to it's definitely going to be down to PlayStation or Ubisoft, these companies, about what they're going to take there, how they're going to show it off, and whether the funding's there right now. You know, I think we're at kind of a tenuous time with it. I think that we're just in probably a lull. I'm being optimistic with it.
It just like hit me somewhere. So TwitchCon is a very unique beast in the fact that it's centered around meet your favorite creator, hang out with other creators, and find out what's happening in the space. TwitchCon is kind of very separate from all of these showcases because it has a very different drive that's on a very social platform. Imagine, because TwitchCon happens what, probably 2 months before holiday season starts, right? Imagine if TwitchCon was able to do TwitchCon's digital gaming showcase, where they had a live audience, but they did a digital live streamed showcase. Like, if anyone could do it and like actually have a draw for people to want to showcase outside of their company, TwitchCon could probably do something big in that space if they really looked at it.
Yeah, I mean they could definitely double dip on that. It's whether or not they care to or have the time to or budget to, or if they're too busy trying to fix their own platform. Whole another podcast for that though, right? But it's an interesting point though. I mean, because it's a built-in audience. It's something for people to do. I will say with TwitchCon, my experience with it was that I had fun on the floor and everything, and I had the 3-day pass, but by the last day, I really didn't. I was just wandering on the floor to wander around the floor because that's where everybody was at. And by the time the doors closed, I was just excited to get out onto the gas lamp district and hang out with people. It was very much like the draw was, and will be continuing forward for me to just experience being amongst all the people that I am amongst on a day-to-day basis as a content creator. It's just cool to, like, everywhere I turn, it doesn't matter if I spark a conversation with some random human being in that hall, we're gonna have something in common, which is really cool. And it's hard to entirely say that about like the interactivity of like PAX or or different gaming events or what E3 was. I mean, it's very obviously you have something in common. We're all gamers, but it's not. We don't all play the same game. We don't all do this, that, or the other. Like the success of TwitchCon is likely from the fact that we all stream or watch streams. Gaming happens to be there and be present, and there's some gaming companies and stuff, and we all kind of game. We all kind of do this, that, or the other. But there is one major thing in common, and yeah, if it's a good point if they got like Jeff from what is like the summer. The Gamer Awards or whatever that he's successfully put together, like, drew him in to really bring, maybe some of his influence to bring some of the gaming industry in to do showcase at TwitchCon. That would be something super cool. Kind of like do a hybrid of those kind of things. And
like the massive benefit for those gaming companies to do that is you have a consolidated group of, I don't want to say captive group, but you have a consolidated group of streamers. You win streamers over, you go a long way in your game's development.
That's
right?
Easy advertisement, man. Streamers are the biggest advertisers for any game. I've sold probably thousands of copies of games to my, modest audience of, 40 people on average. But like, I know for a fact that tons of people over the 8 years I've been streaming have bought games because I was playing them on stream. So it's like, it would make sense to show the cool games to the people that are going to advertise your game for free, essentially. For the most part, there are streamers that rightfully and deservedly get paid, but a lot of streamers are just going to play your game anyways, whether or not they're getting paid,
Yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Man, like, and okay, last thing I want to get into is, were there any massive disappointments in the year? Like, what was a total L for you guys? And I don't know if you have one, Spike, with the amount of exposure you did. I need to start with something that got me so hot and bothered under the collar that, like, I was ready to punch things. Skull and Bones. I am super excited about Skull and Bones. I am looking forward to Skull and Bones. But what they did during their Ubisoft showcase was so dirty and made me so mad. They had a band playing a really awesome sea shanty. It was amazing. Really good sea shanty with a little bit of like teaser gameplay in the background. And then they just showed a date for the closed beta. When Ubisoft did every other game in their showcase where the devs got to talk a little bit and they showed more of the game, that trailer exposure for, like, it didn't even give me a good chunk of gameplay because it was in the background of the band singing the sea shanty, which was really cool. But like, you cut me off so hard on all the other stuff that could have been present there that like I wanted to rage and punch, and it wasn't even close to
Now,
enough.
I will say I won't have a whole lot to say about like what my disappointment was and everything because I truly didn't watch like a whole lot of showcases. But on the Skull and Bones topic, I'm not surprised because I played some play tests of that, and that was about all they probably had to say about it.
And
I
I'm
don't
so
hold my
nervous
hopes high
about
for that
it,
game.
like-
I want it to be good, and I hope they do better on what I experienced because it wasn't the greatest gameplay experience, that's for sure.
No,
for how long it should have been in development, and the fact that they're just saying 2023 still, you know, and they're just like, here's a, you know, it's an IP we've invested in, and you guys expect to see something of it, so they just show like gameplay in the background kind of thing. Definitely doesn't surprise me. Per se.
No, like I'm not surprised. Like I've watched this. This game has been like development hell. It's been bad. It's been really bad, and they've changed directions with it several times. And like I don't even know what the core concept is anymore at this point. And like I think I signed up for the beta. Like I expect this game to not be what I expected or wanted at all. That's where I'm at with my expectation because they keep doing stuff like that to me. But like it was because they were doing so good. Ubisoft did so good at giving me the extra details after every little thing. And like Skull and Bones, it's like they're terrified to talk to the audience. They just don't want, and like to have the middle one segment of a showcase, the very middle of it be so dramatically different, just ripped me apart. There were other trailers that were kind of disappointing, and I'm sure Court's got one that like might stick out to him when I throw it over to him, but like it was such a deviation from what was going on with the rest of the showcase and with a game that I want to be excited about, that like I lost my mind. But like Court, do you have one trailer where like it just turned so quickly on you, or it was something that failed to deliver in any column that like it just stands out?
Oh, you know what? It was more of an amalgamation of trailers, and it was, you know, the kind of upped graphics, kind of Dishonored clones that there were multitudes of. And I remember, actually, I did get really angry at one point. I got really annoyed, but I think that was just the fact that there were so many trailers, and I was like, and also the hosts. But if we're talking specifically trailers, non-gameplay trailers, kind of cinematics, not giving me any idea about the game. I was like, this game could be really cool. But I will say the highlight was of not seeing a trailer and just seeing the end with space truckers, because that's just the concept has got me going.
Oh my god, what a ball drop. Right? So you didn't watch it, but we watched it live, and for like a showcase, Spike, I can't emphasize like this was one of the biggest f-ups in probably like online showcases ever. They were showing a trailer, lost connectivity, loading on the stream on the like a cut of a bronchosaurus or something, and then it cuts to a couple, like maybe a minute, almost two later, you see a 18-wheeler flying through space with space truckers, the video game. So you missed the end, so you didn't even get to see what the dinosaur game was. You didn't get to see the title of it.
And dinosaurs. So it was like, is this Ark 2? This looks really well rendered, but it doesn't look like Ark. And then there was no Vin Diesel. And then like, then you get to an 18-wheeler, like your Jack Burton in Little China, you know?
What the? Okay. That sounds like the chaos I wish I was there for.
It was they didn't address it at all.
Nope. Not at all.
Just skim right over that.
Well, it's all pre-recorded. They didn't want to go back or try to put up a moniker or anything. They just like, well, it buffered and loaded back in, so we're here now.
It's not exactly like they're on a scheduled program. Like on TV, you can understand it, right?
Yeah.
We're past the point. That's not. It's not like they're paying for the slot. You know,
man. Yeah.
It's not. They can go on longer if they want. So I'm more than I'm more than certain it was pre-recorded.
Oh yeah.
That's great though.
Part of
doing
me on
stuff
the
like that, it's like unique, you know. If that was like scripted in some way to like just be funny or whatever, like heck yeah.
I mean, I think it's the modern direct version of, you know, like when they're like, and here's our game, Watch Dogs 3. And as you can see with itself, oh, it's disconnected. Can we get that back? And it's like, and then it like glitches, you know, and they have that big screen. It's just the most awkward like time on a showcase.
Oh god.
Where they're trying to show off the game. They're supposed to be playing it and it doesn't work. Or it does the Milli Vanilli thing and it just keeps going. And like they're not even controlling it, you know?
Yeah. Oh man. See, part of me on the trailers expected you to go with something like Foam Stars, because we talked a lot about that, where there were quite a few trailers that did a complete 180 on these showcases.
I forgot about Foam Stars.
Foam Stars looked like a super intense, like foam tag game, first person shooter by all the graphics leading up to it. And then it turned into like a top down, what did you call it? Like Genshin style?
Like, so the artwork went from like this fully 3D rendered kind of semi-realistic, very slick graphic style to being like Genshin or Honkai Impact. Like, you know, the kind of cell shaded, hard line kind of semi 2D, but 2D that's kind of rendered into 3D kind of look. And it was just, it was so odd. Imagine somebody feeding you Fortnite, but then getting Paper Mario. That's what it felt like, you know?
Oof.
Yeah.
It was very odd. It was such a switch up from the like the rendered trailer or cinematic segment to the actual gameplay.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like those Facebook ads. Have you ever seen the Facebook ads where it shows like actual fun game, but then you get the game and it's like Candy Crush, or it's like, you know, like,
yeah, it's like here's this crazy cinematic trailer, but then it's like a puzzle, you know, piece matching game. It's like, so why did you even make a trailer? Like what?
Yeah.
like, does this story really match this game? I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I forgot about that.
and it wasn't the only one that was. Yeah.
Not the game, the guy. The guy who voiced him. Yeah, that was a weird one actually as well. There was a lot of instances in that showcase where it felt very disjointed. You know, like Spider-Man was just, it was way too long and it gave us too much with saying very little. Like it gave a lot away without actually giving us anything. And so it kind of felt boring after a while, for me at least. And I liked the first game, but the actual presentations of it was very stale and kind of condescending.
I don't know, man. I gotta say, I watched that clip just now of that buffering for Star Trekker, and I kind of am into the idea of Star Trekker. This looks pretty cool.
No, Star Trekker looks cool.
Now I'm like looking it up on Steam
but
here.
Like the one that I suggest you look up that like really caught my eye, that was like came out of nowhere, was Pacific Drive.
Okay.
Pacific Drive is a survival base builder in which you have a station wagon as your base and you drive around the apocalypse, upgrading your station wagon at mechanic points.
You had me at survival, and then I was sold at station wagon. So
it looks so unique.
Wait, I've got to look at my wish list because some of these were like that's Pacific Drive looked sick. Which other ones was there? There was a couple that really kind of like took my eye. The Precinct, I remember, looked pretty cool, like the police game.
The anti-GTA, where you play the cops, but it's like GTA 3 style game, but you're playing the cops.
Ooh, that's
the one. Then Alaskan Road Truckers, which was like, imagine Euro Truck Simulator, an American simulator, but you can get out of your truck, you can walk around. There's more of an actual sim nature to you being a trucker rather than just driving the vehicle.
That's cool.
What was the other ones? The pull stay. No, I'm looking through to see which ones I liked the Pacific Drive, the Spirit of the Samurai. That was that 2D samurai game that looked really cool.
Right.
Starfield.
I know there was like a really chill, vibey looking free climbing game that looked interesting to me.
Oh,
It was going to be
that
very
was on the
zen, indie kind of game.
Xbox showcase.
Yeah,
I remember that. I can't remember the name of it though. It's like it's something to do with like climb. Or...
Jusant, something like that. I just don't know how to say it. That's what it is. JUSANT. Yeah, that one just, I don't know, that like games like that always intrigue me, where it's like, you know, there's probably like a little bit of a story to it. You know, you can kind of get into it. It's like that unpacking game if you ever played it, where like literally all it is just unpacking somebody's boxes every time they move houses, and you just like kind of find the right places for everything. And if you pay attention, there's a story overall, but it's like a really zen game that you can play, especially as a streamer. Like you kind of just vibe, chat. There's no need. You can set down the controls at any time. And this feels like one of those games that's going to be just like beautiful landscapes, and there'll be a little bit of a story leaked in, but you know, low key gameplay.
House Flipper 2 coming soon. I think there's actually a demo of House Flipper 2 right now.
Oh,
Steam. I think I heard.
nice.
All right.
I'm looking. Yeah, I think those were the ones that caught our eye, because I think we added the same ones to our wish list.
I mean, I had Warhaven as well, which is kind of like a Diablo meets Chivalry 2.
That was the other one. I thought there was another one. Yeah, that is on the list. I couldn't remember whether I added it at the same time or not.
Yeah,
but that does look pretty fun.
Yeah, so there's a couple coming out that really caught the eye, and like some of their showcases did better than the others, but like this new model could work, but I think there are improvements to be made in the whole like showcase system as they go forward. I think like as far as like testing out the new post E3 era, it was a pretty good like showcase season, but there are things I think that we pointed out that could be improved, and like we could get a better experience as consumers, especially for those who don't have the time to watch all of them or go back to people like my YouTube and rewatch old showcases, right? There's ways that they can make this process better and give us consolidated
It's almost like they went from like a single in-person event that was live streamed a bit, but you kind of had FOMO. You know, if you weren't there, you're like, man, I just wish I was there. Till now, it's like way too much, dude. Like, whoa. Like, let's find a middle ground here. Like, this is just too much content. Like, y'all need to chill a little bit.
And I think they'll find that middle ground. I mean, that kind of wraps up the conversation. I think we went through trailers we didn't like. We went through trailers we did like, mechanisms we liked, mechanisms we didn't like. I don't think there's any like final take this home with you note for this topic per se, but like I loved hanging out with you guys. I loved having your perspectives, especially you, Spike. Like you not watching as many showcases, you hear this information about our points, and it kind of gives us that perspective of, well, do I like that? I didn't experience it, but like, do I think that's something that would encourage me or discourage me from watching showcases in the future? So yeah, it was just a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys having me on again.
Yeah, no problem, my dude. Court, thanks for hanging out.
As always, perpetual.
Court.
I'm perpetual. Elemental.
I still think you could have done a little something different with your hair, but that's all right. Most people are probably listening.
Yeah, I mean, look, I never restyle it. I kind of just like this consistently. Never changes.
You just gotta do like me and just like change hats all the time.
YouTube, anyone out there listening, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Let us know in the comments what you think about showcases going in the future. What was your favorite trailer of the showcase season? And what do you like or think should change about showcases in the future? We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
And see.
Bye-bye.